The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador Thexazun walked through them with the confidence of someone who had done this exact thing 217 times before. His scales gleamed under the artificial lights, each one carrying the silver markings of the Velkari hegemony. Behind him, 12 junior ambassadors followed in perfect formation. They represented the most powerful species in known space. Today would be routine. Another primitive species. Another proclamation. Another addition to the Council's ever-growing list of subject races. The human delegation was already waiting. Thexazun studied them with mild interest. They were small creatures, these humans. Fragile-looking. Their leader, a female named Sarah Chen, stood at the center of 5 other humans. She wore a simple black suit. No armor, no visible weapons, no ceremonial decorations that marked real power. Perfect prey. Thexazun thought, I am Ambassador Thexazun of the Velkari hegemony, first voice of the Galactic Council. His translator device rendered his words into the crude human language. I bring a proclamation from the Council of 847 species. Sarah Chen nodded once. We're listening. Thexazun appreciated her directness, even if it lacked proper deference. Humanity has expanded into 12 star systems without authorization. You have established colonies on 7 worlds that fall within Council-regulated space. You have built ships capable of faster-than-light travel, without submitting your designs for safety review. You have broadcast radio signals across protected zones. In short, you have violated 43 separate articles of galactic law. We didn't know there was galactic law, Sarah said calmly. No one told us. Ignorance is not immunity. Thexazun activated a holographic display. It showed Earth, green and blue, spinning slowly in space. Red markers appeared around it. As of this moment, humanity is declared a subject species of the Galactic Council. Your sovereignty is hereby suspended pending compliance with Council regulations. One of the human delegation, a male with gray hair, made a strange sound. Thexazun's translator couldn't identify it properly. The sound came again from another human. And another. They were laughing. Is something amusing? Thexazun's scales darkened slightly. Sarah raised a hand and her delegation fell silent. Forgive us. It's been a long day. Please continue. Thexazun studied her face. Humans had unusual features. 2 forward-facing eyes like predators, flat faces with mobile mouths. Their expressions were difficult to read, but Sarah Chen's face showed nothing but polite attention now. As a subject species, humanity must comply with the following requirements. Thexazun counted on his clawed fingers. 1. Immediate dismantling of all military vessels and weapons. 2. Submission of all technological databases to Council oversight. 3. Acceptance of Council administrators to manage your colonial expansion. 4. Payment of regulatory fees equivalent to 30% of your gross planetary production. 5. Mandatory education programs to teach your species proper galactic citizenship. And if we refuse, Sarah asked, then the Council will implement corrective measures. This is standard procedure. We have brought 217 species into compliance. Not one has required correction. Thexazun leaned forward slightly. We prefer cooperation. Violence is inefficient. Sarah looked at her delegation. They looked back at her. Some strange communication passed between them that Thexazun couldn't interpret. How long do we have to comply? Sarah asked. 30 standard days. This is generous. Other species received only 10. 30 days. Sarah repeated the word slowly. And you want complete military disarmament? Full database access? Colonial oversight? Correct. May I have a moment to consult with my delegation? Thexazun gestured permission. This was also routine. The humans gathered in a tight circle, speaking in low voices. Thexazun could hear fragments through his translator. Words like timeline and window in Phase 1. He paid little attention. Subject species always tried to negotiate. They always failed. After 3 minutes, Sarah turned back to face him. We accept your terms, Thexazun blinked. Both sets of eyelids. You accept? Yes, we accept. 30 days. Full compliance. We'll transmit our acceptance to all human colonies and governments immediately. This was unusual. Most species argued, threatened, postured, some cried. A few attacked, which only proved they needed guidance. But simple acceptance? That was rare. You understand what you are agreeing to? Thexazun asked carefully. Complete subjugation to the Galactic Council. Yes, we understand. Sarah's face remained calm. We're a practical species, Ambassador. We know when we're outmatched. 847 species against one. Those aren't good odds. A wise assessment. Thexazun felt a warm sense of satisfaction. Perhaps humans were smarter than they looked. I will inform the Council of your cooperation. Occupation forces will arrive within 5 days to oversee the dismantling process. We'll be ready. The meeting ended. Thexazun and his delegation departed, already composing the report in his mind. Subject Species 218. Compliant. Recommend standard oversight protocol. The Council would be pleased. Behind him, he did not see Sarah Chen smile. 3 days later, aboard the Council flagship Eternal Governance, Thexazun reviewed the preliminary reports. Human governments across all 12 systems had broadcast acceptance messages. Military shipyards were already shutting down production. Weapons platforms were being deactivated. Database transfers had begun. They're actually doing it, said Sub-Ambassador Krell, a young Velkari still learning proper diplomatic procedure. I expected more resistance. Humans are emotional creatures, Thexazun replied. But they appear capable of logic when faced with overwhelming force. This is encouraging. The psychologist teams have noted something odd, though. Thexazun looked up from his reports. Odd how? Human social media networks are filled with humor about the situation. They're making jokes, creating entertainment programs. The compliance broadcasts are serious, but the general population seems almost cheerful. Species process subjugation differently, Thexazun said. Some use humor to cope with powerlessness. It's harmless, and if you say so, sir. Krell didn't sound convinced. The occupation forces arrived at Earth on schedule. 300 council ships carrying administrators, auditors, and security personnel. They established orbital platforms and began the tedious work of cataloging human assets. The humans cooperated fully, perhaps too fully. Every request was met with eager compliance. Every question was answered in exhaustive detail. Every inspection was welcomed with open doors and smiling faces. The council officers found it slightly unnerving, but orders were orders. In the command center of the occupied Earth orbital station, Commander Vexthar reviewed the daily reports. The Velkari officer had overseen 32 subjugations in his career. He knew the patterns. Resistance came in stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Humans seem to have skipped straight to acceptance. Database transfers are proceeding, his aide reported, though they keep experiencing technical delays. Primitive human systems, apparently. How primitive? They claim their computers need frequent maintenance. Something about bugs in the system. The aide paused. It's strange, though. Their technology is advanced enough for faster-than-light travel, but they can't maintain a stable data connection. Vexthar frowned. Monitor it. Note any anomalies. Yes, sir. That night, in a secure room 3 miles beneath the surface of Earth, Sarah Chen met with the real human leadership. Not the puppet governments currently smiling for council cameras. The actual decision-makers. Day 7, Sarah said. How are we looking? Admiral Marcus Reeves pulled up a holographic display. It showed the Sol system. Evacuation is 60% complete. All critical personnel and equipment are en route to secondary locations. The council thinks we're dismantling ships. We're actually stripping them and moving the important parts. Database transfers? We're giving them exactly what they asked for, said Dr. Helena Kimura, head of the science division. A complete and detailed database of human technology. Completely fake, of course. Should take their analysts months to realize it's garbage wrapped in technical jargon. Military status? Sarah looked at General James Okonkwo. Public forces are standing down as ordered. Private forces are moving into position. The council can't tell the difference between a military vessel and a civilian hauler if we paint it the right color. Okonkwo grinned. They're not very imaginative, these council species. Colonies. The visible ones are cooperating. The invisible ones don't exist as far as the council knows. This came from Governor Patricia Zhao, who managed humanity's outer settlements. We've got 28 systems they don't know about. And we're building in 30 more. Sarah nodded slowly. 23 days left. Can we finish in time? We'll finish, Reeves said. The council thinks they're hunting rabbits. They don't realize they're poking a sleeping bear. Let's keep it that way. Sarah stood. Remember, stay compliant. Stay friendly. Stay weak-looking. The longer they believe we're harmless, the better our position when the time comes. The group dispersed into the darkness. Above them, Council ships orbited in perfect formation, their sensors recording everything. Day 15 of the occupation arrived with the kind of bureaucratic efficiency that made the Galactic Council proud. Across all 12 known human systems, Council overseers documented the dismantling of humanity's military infrastructure. Reports flowed upward through the chain of command, each one confirming what the Council already believed. Humans were complying. On Mars colony, Overseer Talana watched as human workers cut apart a military cruiser. The acetylene torches glowed bright blue in the thin atmosphere. Pieces of hull plating crashed to the red dust below. Everything looked proper. Everything felt wrong. "They're too happy," Talana muttered to her assistant. "Sir? Look at them. They just surrendered their sovereignty. They should be angry, sad, something. But they're chatting and laughing while they destroy their own ships." The assistant, a young Pharax named Quilp, checked his cultural database. Humans use humor as a coping mechanism. It's documented behavior. Still seems odd. Talana marked the report as complete anyway. What else could she do? The ships were being destroyed. The weapons were being deactivated. Orders were being followed. If humans wanted to smile while doing it, that was their problem. In the Europa shipyards, Commander Vexthar personally supervised the disarmament of Earth's largest military construction facility. Massive robotic arms that once assembled warships now sat idle. The human facility manager, a tired-looking man named Robert Chen, provided access to every sector without complaint. "This must be difficult for you," Vexthar said. It was something he'd learned to say during subjugations. False sympathy often made the process smoother. Robert shrugged. "We built this facility in 8 years. We can build another one if we ever need to. Metal is metal. Workers are workers. The real value is up here." He tapped his head. "Knowledge, experience, that doesn't go away just because you take our toys." Vexthar didn't like that answer. It suggested humans viewed this as temporary. But the man's tone was mild, his cooperation total. "Your database transfers are behind schedule," Vexthar said, changing subjects. "Sorry about that. We're having some technical issues. Old Earth systems, you know? Built them ourselves before we knew better. We're working on it. See that you do. The Council requires complete data within 15 days. We'll get it done." Robert smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. That evening in a bar 3 miles underground in the Luna colony, Robert Chen sat with 5 other facility managers. They drank real whiskey from hidden reserves and watched the security feeds showing Council inspectors walking through empty warehouses. "They actually believe we built everything in one place," said Manager Kowalski, laughing into his drink. "Like we're stupid enough to put all our eggs in one basket." The Europa facility was always for show, Robert agreed. The real construction happens in the belt, and in the Oort cloud, and in 40 other places they don't know exist. "How's the data transfer going?" asked Manager Okafor. "Beautiful. We're giving them full specifications for every ship, every weapon, every system, all perfectly accurate." Robert grinned. "For technology that's 15 years out of date. By the time they figure out the stuff we're actually using now, we'll be 3 generations ahead." They clinked glasses. Above them, Council officers wrote reports praising human cooperation. On Earth itself, Sarah Chen maintained her role as the primary human liaison. She met with Thexun every 3rd day to provide updates. The meetings followed a predictable pattern. Thexun asked questions. Sarah answered them. Thexun expressed satisfaction. Sarah bowed her head respectfully. "Your species adapts quickly," Thexun observed during their 5th meeting. "Some races require decades to accept their new status. Humans required mere days. We're practical," Sarah said. "Fighting a war we can't win would be wasteful. Better to accept reality and make the best of it." "A mature perspective," Thexun approved. "Though I confess surprise. Human cultural broadcasts suggest your species values independence highly. Your history is filled with rebellions against authority. Our history is also filled with knowing when to pick our battles." Sarah kept her voice calm. "We fought each other because we were equals. You're not our equal. You're 847 species with technology centuries beyond ours. Only an idiot picks a fight with those odds. Wisdom. I shall note this in my reports. The Council appreciates species that understand their place. Thexazun paused. There is one concern, however. Oh? Your civilian shipping has increased substantially. We're tracking nearly 3,000 vessels moving between your colonies. This seems excessive for a species under occupation. Sarah had prepared for this question. We're consolidating resources, moving population from less efficient colonies to more productive ones. It's basic logistics. The council wanted us to operate more efficiently, right? We're complying. I see. Thexan made a note. Very well, continue. But all civilian vessels must submit to random inspections. Of course. We have nothing to hide. That was a lie. Humanity had everything to hide. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where council sensors rarely bothered looking, the real human military was gathering. Not in one place. That would be stupid. But in hundreds of small clusters, spread across millions of cubic kilometers of space, hidden in the shadows of asteroids, powered down to minimal signatures, waiting. Admiral Marcus Reeves stood in the command center of the Athens, a warship that officially didn't exist. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 237 human military vessels. All of them invisible to council sensors. All of them ready. Fleet status? He asked. Green across the board, sir, reported Commander Jackson. The council inspected 17 of our civilian ships this week. All passed. They can't tell a freighter from a pocket carrier when we strip off the weapons. Personnel? Evacuation is 92% complete. All critical staff are in secondary locations. Earth, Mars, and the other visible colonies are down to minimum population. Mostly volunteers who understand the risk. And the council hasn't noticed entire cities emptying out? Jackson smiled. They think we're consolidating for efficiency. Their words. We're moving 10,000 people a day through civilian traffic and they just wave us through checkpoints. Reeves allowed himself a brief smile. They expect conquered species to act defeated, scattered, disorganized. They don't expect coordinated evacuation on this scale. To be fair, sir, no other species has ever done this. That's because no other species was humanity. Reeves pulled up a tactical display. What about Phase 2 preparations? On schedule. We've identified council supply depots, communication relays, and command centers across 30 systems. Once we go active, we can hit 100 targets simultaneously. Good, but not yet. We still have 15 days of cooperation left. Let them get comfortable. Let them get sloppy. On the other side of human space, in a system the council had never cataloged, the Prometheus research station orbited a dead moon. Dr. Helena Kimura worked in Laboratory 7, surrounded by pieces of captured council technology. Over the past 2 weeks, human intelligence had quietly stolen 3 council sensor arrays, 2 communication devices, and 1 complete shuttle. The council didn't know they were missing. They thought the equipment had been lost to administrative errors and database glitches. They never imagined humans were systematically studying council technology to find weaknesses. Got it, Helena announced, pulling a circuit board from the shuttle's navigation system. Their encryption isn't encryption at all. It's just really complicated. Once you understand the pattern, it's easy to break. Her assistant, a young engineer named David Park, looked skeptical. Easy? Well, easier than we thought. Point is, we can read their communications now. All of them. Fleet movements, supply schedules, command codes, everything. Does the Admiral know? Sending the report now. Helena wiped grease from her hands. Also, their sensor technology is surprisingly weak in the infrared spectrum. They rely almost entirely on visual and electromagnetic detection. That's exploitable. How? Stealth tech. If we coat our ships in the right materials, run cold, and avoid electromagnetic emissions, we can get within weapons range before they even know we're there. David whistled. They've been fighting wars for thousands of years. How did they miss something this obvious? Helena shrugged. They've been fighting other council species. Everyone uses the same technology, the same tactics. They've never faced anyone who thinks differently. That's their weakness. They can't imagine alternatives to their way of doing things. By day 20, the council's occupation appeared completely successful. Every report showed compliance. Every inspection passed. Every database transfer proceeded on schedule, albeit slowly. Thexazun prepared his final assessment for the council. Subject species 218 had accepted subjugation with minimal resistance. They showed appropriate respect for authority. They cooperated with all directives. Within another month, they would be fully integrated into the Council's administrative structure. Another success story. Another primitive species brought into the civilized galaxy. Thexzun felt proud. This had been one of his easier assignments. He didn't notice the small details. The way human workers always delayed Council inspectors just long enough for civilian ships to pass through checkpoints. The way database transfers contained perfect information. The Council outpost at Sirius Station fell silent at 300 hours on day 32. The last transmission was routine. Shift change, status green, all systems normal. Then nothing. Commander Vexthar didn't worry at first. Communication failures happened. Equipment broke. The outpost was small, only 40 personnel monitoring human colonial traffic in the Sirius system. They'd check in eventually. By hour 12, he started worrying. By hour 24, he sent an investigation team. The team arrived to find Sirius Station empty, not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. 40 Council officers had vanished. Their personal effects remained. Half-eaten meals sat on tables in the cafeteria. Computer terminals still glowed with active displays. But no people. Where did they go? Lieutenant Kresh asked, her 4 eyes scanning the abandoned command center. I don't know. The investigation team leader, a Velkari named Torvax, checked the security footage. It showed normal operations until 0300. Then the cameras went offline for exactly 7 minutes. When they came back online, the station was empty. Play it again. They watched 3 more times. Nothing. The cameras simply stopped recording. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. No signs of anything. Check the shuttle bay. All shuttles were present and accounted for. No one had left. At least not using Council transportation. This doesn't make sense, Kresh said. 40 people can't just disappear. Torvax sent his report back to Earth Orbital Command. Recommended full investigation. Possible human involvement, though evidence was lacking. 48 hours later, 2 more outposts went silent. Same pattern. Normal operations, brief communication gap, empty stations. 103 Council personnel gone. It's the humans, Overseer Talana said flatly during the emergency briefing. Has to be. Commander Vexthar wanted to agree, but facts were stubborn. We've been monitoring all human vessels, nothing unusual, civilian traffic only, and humans don't have the technology to make our people vanish into thin air. Then who else? These outposts were monitoring human space. I don't know, but make wild accusations without evidence and we'll look like fools. Vexthar pulled up the tactical display. Increase patrols, double-check all human vessel inspections. And for the ancestors' sake, find our missing people. They didn't find them. What they found instead were more problems. A supply convoy carrying food and equipment to Council forces in human space disappeared between Jupiter and Saturn. The escorts reported no distress signal. One moment the convoy was there, the next gone. Like someone had erased it from space. A communication relay near Mars experienced catastrophic systems failure. Council engineers spent 4 days trying to repair it before realizing someone had physically removed critical components. Not broken them, not destroyed them. Carefully removed them. But security footage showed no one approaching the relay. Equipment failures multiplied. Navigation systems glitched. Sensor arrays gave false readings. Power generators required constant maintenance. Each incident was small, annoying rather than critical, but they added up. The occupation, which had run smoothly for 30 days, suddenly felt like trying to hold water in a leaking bucket. Status report, Ambassador Thexzun demanded. Vexthar scrolled through a list that seemed to grow longer every hour. We've lost contact with 7 outposts. Total personnel missing 217. 3 supply convoys have disappeared. 14 communication relays are offline. We're experiencing equipment failures at rates 70% above normal. And we still haven't found any evidence of human military action, because there isn't any. We confirmed their military dismantling. We confirmed they dismantled ships at locations we could see, Vexthar said carefully. We never confirmed those were their only ships. Thexazoon's scales darkened. Are you suggesting the humans lied to us? I'm suggesting we might have been overconfident. Vexthar pulled up fleet tracking data. Human civilian traffic has tripled since occupation began. They claim it's resource consolidation. But look at the patterns. These shipping routes make no economic sense. The display showed hundreds of ships moving between human colonies in patterns that looked almost random. Ships leaving full and returning empty. Ships traveling to colonies with no significant resources. Ships taking inefficient routes for no apparent reason. Civilian traffic, Thexzoon said. We've inspected them. Cargo holds, crew quarters, everything. Just regular freighters. Every inspection finds a regular freighter. Yes. Vexthar highlighted 17 ships, but these 17 freighters have been to locations near every outpost we've lost. Coincidence? Investigate them. I tried. Can't find them. Transponders say they're in various locations across human space, but when we send patrols to intercept, there's nothing there. Thexazoon stood abruptly. Summon Sarah Chen. Now. Sarah arrived within the hour, her expression showing polite concern. Ambassador, how can I help? Explain the disappearances. I'm sorry? 7 council outposts have gone silent. Over 200 personnel are missing. Supply convoys are vanishing. All in human space. All after we declared humanity a subject species. Thexazoon leaned forward. Explain. Sarah's face showed confusion. Genuine seeming confusion. I truly don't know what you're talking about. Our forces are dismantled. We're cooperating fully. If council personnel are missing, perhaps they encountered some natural phenomenon. Space is dangerous. Natural phenomena don't make 40 people vanish from a secured station. Neither do humans with no military. Sarah spread her hands. I understand you're frustrated, but we're subjects now, remember? We're under your control. We have no capacity for military action. You've been supervising us for over a month. You've seen our compliance. It was a perfect answer. Logical, reasonable, and deeply frustrating because it was technically true. The Council had been supervising human space. They had confirmed military dismantling. They had no evidence of human military vessels. Nevertheless, Thexazoon said stiffly, I'm restricting human civilian traffic. All ships will be inspected twice before departure and upon arrival. Of course, whatever you think best. Sarah bowed slightly. We're here to help. After she left, Vexthar pulled up her biographical file. Former military. Served in 3 human wars. Specialized in strategic planning. Then became a diplomat right before first contact with the Council. She knows something, Vexthar said. Obviously, but we can't prove it. Day 40 brought the first open confrontation. A Council patrol frigate, the Righteous Purpose, encountered a human civilian freighter near Neptune. The freighter's transponder identified it as the Morning Star, registered to Earth's merchant fleet. Standard inspection protocol. The frigate's captain, a cautious Ferax named Quillix, ran every scanner twice. The freighter looked normal. Civilian hull configuration. Standard engines. Cargo bays reading empty. Crew of 12. Prepare for boarding, Quillix ordered. The freighter's captain, a human woman, responded immediately. Of course, Righteous Purpose. We're transmitting our cargo manifest and crew roster now. We welcome inspection. Too easy. Too cooperative. Quillix's instincts screamed warning. Lieutenant, tactical scan, full spectrum. The tactical officer worked his console, frowned, worked it again. Sir, I'm getting anomalous readings from their cargo bay. Anomalous how? It reads empty on standard scans, but there's a mass discrepancy. The ship's center of gravity is wrong for an empty cargo hold. They're hiding something. Battle stations. Quillix activated ship-wide alerts. Freighter morning. Star, you are ordered to shut down all systems and prepare for... The freighter wasn't a freighter. Panels along its hull dropped away, revealing weapon batteries that definitely weren't civilian grade. Missile ports opened, and worst of all, The hull itself shimmered and changed color as some kind of stealth coating deactivated. "Evasive action!" Quillix screamed. Too late. The human ship fired. Not to destroy, to disable. Precise shots took out the frigate's engines, weapons, and communication arrays in less than 10 seconds. The righteous purpose went dead in space. Life support intact, but everything else offline. The Morning Star, if that was even its real name, moved alongside. A voice came over emergency frequencies. Human. Male. Calm. Council vessel. This is UHSF Beijing. You are not destroyed because we choose not to destroy you. Your crew will be unharmed. We will leave you here for your people to recover. This is a warning. Leave human space. Tell your superiors that their occupation is over. If you remain, we will remove you. Beijing out. The stealth ship powered up some kind of faster-than-light drive and vanished. The righteous purpose drifted in silence until a rescue team found them 3 days later. Quillix's report caused chaos in the Council command structure. UHSF Beijing. United Human Space Force. That meant military. Organized military. With technology that could defeat Council warships. But humans weren't supposed to have military anymore. They lied, Talana said. From the beginning, they lied. Tekzun stared at the tactical footage of the Beijing. How? We watched them dismantle their ships. We inspected their facilities. We monitored their space. We saw what they wanted us to see. Vexthar pulled up the old footage of human shipyard dismantling. Look, they're cutting apart ships. But are those real warships or just hulls? We never checked the interiors. The Council called it Operation Righteous Correction. Humanity called it Tuesday. 16 Council fleets comprising over 400 warships entered human space with orders to crush the rebellion. This was the largest military deployment in Council history. The combined firepower could devastate planets. The sheer mass of the fleet would overwhelm any defense. The Council admirals planned a shock and awe campaign that would end human resistance in days. They expected fear. They expected desperate defense. They expected humans to huddle around their homeworld and beg for mercy. What they got was ambush. The First Fleet, commanded by Admiral Thrinox, jumped into the Mars system expecting to face fortified orbital defenses. Instead, they found empty space. Mars orbital stations were dark. No power signatures. No defensive fire, nothing. Scan for human forces, Thrinox ordered. Sensors show no military vessels, Admiral. The system appears abandoned. Abandoned? An entire colony? Thrinox didn't like it. Proceed with caution. Full sensor sweeps, the fleet moved deeper into the system. Mars grew larger in their view screens. The colony domes were still intact but dark. Population readings showed minimal human presence. Where had everyone gone? Admiral, we're detecting power fluctuations from the asteroid belt. Investigate. 3 Council destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the belt. They reached the first large asteroid and began scanning. The reading showed a strange metallic signature buried inside. What is that? The destroyer captain asked. He never got an answer. The asteroid split open. Not naturally. Someone had hollowed it out and hidden a weapons platform inside. Railguns opened fire at point-blank range, tearing through the lead destroyer's shields like paper. The ship broke apart in seconds. The other 2 destroyers tried to retreat. More asteroids opened. More weapons platforms revealed themselves. The entire belt was a trap. Dozens of hidden installations poured fire into the Council ships. Evasive action, Thrinox screamed. Too late. The ambush expanded. Human warships, painted black and running silent, emerged from the shadows of larger asteroids. They'd been there the whole time, invisible to Council sensors. Now they attacked from every direction at once. The First Fleet, caught in a crossfire between hidden platforms and mobile warships, took devastating losses in the first 5 minutes. Thrinox ordered full retreat. His fleet jumped away, leaving 16 destroyed ships and 3,000 dead crew behind. They'd held the system for less than an hour. In the command center of the UHSF Athens, Admiral Marcus Reeves watched the Council retreat with grim satisfaction. First blood to us. How many fleets are still incoming? 15, sir. They're hitting different systems simultaneously. Good. Let them spread out. Easier to kill that way. Reeves pulled up tactical displays showing the entire human sphere of influence. Dispatch orders to all battle groups. Standard protocol. Let them in, bleed them, push them out. We're not defending territory. We're destroying their will to fight. Across human space, the pattern repeated. Council fleets arrived expecting conventional warfare. Fixed defenses, orbital platforms, desperate last stands. Instead, they found asymmetric nightmare fuel. The Fourth Fleet jumped into the Tau Ceti system and immediately lost sensors to electronic warfare attacks from unknown sources. Blind and confused, they became targets for human ships that could see perfectly fine. The Seventh Fleet found their supply convoy ambushed by human raiders who appeared from nowhere, destroyed the cargo ships, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Without supplies, the fleet had to withdraw after only 3 days. The Ninth Fleet encountered what looked like a disabled human freighter broadcasting distress signals. When they stopped to investigate, the disabled ship turned out to be a Q ship loaded with enough explosives to cripple a battle cruiser. The resulting explosion took out the fleet's flagship and 2 escort vessels. Humans didn't fight fair. They fought to win. They're using every dirty trick in existence, Council Admiral Corvin complained during an emergency command meeting. False distress signals, disguised vessels, hidden bases, ambush tactics, deliberate targeting of supply lines. This isn't civilized warfare. This isn't civilized species, Overseer Talana said. We treated them like subject species. We should have treated them like the barbarians they are. Ambassador Thexazoon's scales had gone pale gray, a sign of stress in Velkari physiology. We're losing ships faster than we're gaining ground. 16 fleets deployed. 12 have taken significant casualties. 3 have withdrawn completely. And we still haven't located the main human fleet. That's because there is no main fleet, Vexthar said quietly. He'd been studying human military doctrine, trying to understand their strategy. They don't mass their forces like we do. They fight in small groups. Hit and run. Every ship is independent but coordinated. You can't defeat their fleet because they don't have a fleet. They have 1,000 small weapons that strike from every direction. Then how do we stop them? I don't know. On day 65 of the occupation, a message broadcast across every council communication channel. It overrode military encryption. It ignored jamming attempts. It appeared on every screen simultaneously. The human who spoke wore a military uniform with unfamiliar rank insignia. His name, according to the subtitle, was Admiral Marcus Reeves. This message is for the Galactic Council, Reeves said calmly. You declared humanity a subject species without asking our opinion. You occupied our space without permission. You tried to disarm us like we were children who couldn't be trusted with knives. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was believing we'd accepted it. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Let me be clear. We're not rebelling. You can't rebel against authority you never recognized. We're defending our sovereignty against an invasion force, and we're very good at it. Better than you expected. Better than you can handle. The display behind Reeves showed a tactical map of human space. Red markers indicated council fleet positions. Blue markers showed human forces. There were 10 blue markers for every red one. You deployed 16 fleets to crush us. We've destroyed or crippled half of them. Your supply lines are cut. Your communication networks are compromised. Your forces are scattered across a dozen systems, isolated and vulnerable. And we're just getting started. Reeves leaned forward, his expression hardening. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw from human space. All of you. Every ship, every soldier, every bureaucrat with delusions of governing us. You have 72 hours. After that, we stop being nice. We stop going for disable shots. We stop leaving survivors. We will hunt every council ship in our territory and destroy it. No mercy, no prisoners, no warning shots. You think we're barbarians? You're right. We're barbarians who invented nuclear weapons, chemical warfare, and mutual assured destruction before we left our home planet. We're barbarians who spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other, and now you've given us a common enemy. Congratulations. You've united humanity against you. The message ended. Across council space, military leaders stared at blank screens in shocked silence. He's bluffing, someone said. He has to be. 72 hours later, they learned he wasn't. The council fleet that refused to withdraw from the Alpha Centauri colony ceased to exist. 47 ships, thousands of crew, gone in a coordinated strike that came from every direction at once. Human warships appeared, fired, and vanished before the council could respond. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The survivors described it as fighting ghosts. Ships that appeared on sensors for seconds before firing. Missiles launched from empty space. Weapons that struck with impossible accuracy. And everywhere, that same calm voice on emergency channels. You were warned. Leave now or die. The Council's member species began to panic. This wasn't supposed to happen. Subject species didn't win wars. They didn't have the technology. They didn't have the organization. They certainly didn't have the ferocity to slaughter Council fleets like animals. We need to negotiate, said Representative Keller of the Ferax delegation, before this escalates further. Negotiate? Thexazoon's voice rose dangerously. With barbarians who massacre our people. With an enemy who's winning, Keller corrected. Pride won't resurrect our dead fleets. The argument exploded into the kind of political infighting the Council hadn't seen in centuries. Younger species wanted peace. Older species wanted revenge. Everyone agreed they'd underestimated humanity. No one agreed on what to do about it. While they argued, humans kept attacking. A Council supply base in neutral space vanished overnight. Simply gone. Buildings, equipment, supplies all stripped away. 200 Council personnel captured and released on a barren moon with a note. Leave our space. Next time, we keep prisoners. A Council communication relay network that took decades to build was systematically destroyed over 5 days. Humans hit one relay at a time, always staying ahead of security forces. By the end, 50 years of infrastructure was reduced to floating debris. Most frightening were the infiltration reports. Council officers started finding human intelligence agents in their own ranks. Not many, just enough. Agents who'd been feeding information to humanity for months. Agents who knew Council ship movements, fleet compositions, and strategic planning. How long have they been spying on us? Admiral Corvin demanded. Since before first contact, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most chaotic meeting in the institution's 3,000-year history. 847 species all talking at once, all blaming each other for the disaster that humanity had become. Order! Supreme Chancellor Vormath slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the massive chamber. We will have order! The noise gradually subsided. Vormath looked across the assembled delegates with the expression of someone watching their life's work crumble. He'd led the Council for 40 years. He'd overseen the peaceful integration of 37 species. And now this. Subject species. 218 had become the Council's worst nightmare. Current status, Vormath said tiredly. Ambassador Thexazoon stood, his scales gray with stress. 12 Council colonies have been attacked. 317 ships lost or damaged. Casualties exceed 40,000. Economic damage is estimated at 17 trillion credits. And we have confirmed that humanity has military presence in at least 40 star systems, not the 12 we initially identified. Gasps echoed through the chamber. 40 systems. Humanity had been hiding nearly 80% of their territory from Council sensors. The implications were staggering. They've been planning this from the beginning, Thexazoon continued. The compliance. The cooperation. All of it was theater. They used the occupation period to evacuate critical personnel, hide military assets, and study our technology. We didn't conquer them. We gave them time to prepare. Then we crushed them, snarled Representative Vokath of the Krelthan Dominion. Deploy the full Council fleet. 5,000 ships. Turn their worlds to glass. Make an example that no species will ever forget. With what resources? Representative Keller of the Ferax asked coldly. Our supply lines are compromised. Our shipyards are damaged. Our forces are scattered. Humanity controls the strategic initiative. They attack when and where they choose, and we react. You want to deploy 5,000 ships? Where? Humanity doesn't mass their forces. They'll hit us from 40 different directions simultaneously. Then we blockade their systems. Starve them out. Blockade 40 systems? We don't have enough ships, and any blockade fleet will be vulnerable to the exact hit-and-run tactics they've been using. The argument exploded again. Vormath let it run for several minutes before calling for order. Politics was exhausting, and these days he felt every one of his 230 years. We have 3 options, Vormath said. First, total war. Commit every resource to destroying humanity regardless of cost. Second, containment. Abandon human territory and establish a defensive perimeter. Third, negotiation. Recognize human sovereignty and end hostilities. Negotiation. Vokath spat the word like poison. They murdered 40,000 council citizens. We cannot negotiate with murderers. We killed 800 of theirs first, Keller pointed out, and we invaded their territory. From their perspective, they're the victims defending themselves. They're barbarians. They're winning. Keller stood, addressing the chamber. I've reviewed the strategic analysis. Unless we're prepared to commit genocide, which I hope we're not, we cannot defeat humanity militarily. They have technological advantages we don't understand. They have resources we didn't know existed. And most importantly, they have the will to fight that we've never encountered in a subject species, because they're not subjects. They never were. So we surrender? Vokath demanded. After 3,000 years of council supremacy, we surrender to primitives who only achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. We acknowledge reality, Keller said. We made mistakes. We underestimated them. We treated them with arrogance. Now we pay the price. Pride or pragmatism, colleagues? Choose. The vote was called. It took 3 hours of bitter argument. In the end, pragmatism won. Barely. The council voted to pursue peace negotiations with humanity. 437 in favor, 387 against, 23 abstentions. The measure passed. Thexazun was assigned to contact humanity and arrange terms. He composed the message carefully, trying to preserve some dignity. The response came within an hour. A single sentence. Ambassador Chen will arrive at council chambers in 2 days. Prepare. Sarah Chen's ship arrived precisely on schedule. It was a small diplomatic vessel, unarmed and unescorted, or so it appeared. Council sensors detected the 3 stealth warships shadowing it, just closely enough to respond if anything went wrong. Humanity was willing to negotiate. They weren't willing to be stupid about it. Sarah entered the council chambers alone. She wore a simple black suit, the same outfit she'd worn during the first meeting, but everything else had changed. Then she'd bowed respectfully. Now she walked with the confidence of someone holding all the cards. The council delegates watched in silence as she approached the center podium. The same podium where Thexazun had declared humanity a subject species 117 days ago. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah said. Though everyone knew it wasn't really an invitation, I understand the council wishes to discuss peace terms. We wish to end hostilities, Vormath said carefully. The conflict has cost both sides dearly. Has it? Sarah pulled up a holographic display. Council losses appeared in red, human losses in blue. The difference was stark. You've lost over 400 ships, 40,000 people, and 3 major industrial centers. We've lost 43 ships and 800 people. Seems like the costs are rather uneven. Silence. No one had expected her to be this blunt. But I'm not here to argue about casualty counts, Sarah continued. I'm here because humanity believes in proportional response. You invaded us. We defended ourselves. You've withdrawn from our territory. We're willing to stop hunting your ships. That seems fair. What are your terms? Thexazun asked, dreading the answer. Simple. First, immediate recognition of human sovereignty over all 40 star systems we currently occupy. No restrictions. No oversight. No subject species status. We're equals. Agreed, Vormath said before anyone could argue. They'd already lost this point. Second, reparations. Your occupation damaged our infrastructure and killed our people. We want compensation. 5 trillion credits paid over 10 years. Vokath started to object, but Keller cut him off. Agreed, though we'd like to negotiate the payment schedule. Third, formal apology from the council. Publicly broadcast, admitting you made a mistake in declaring us subjects without consent. That hurt. The council didn't apologize. They corrected others, but Vormath nodded slowly. Agreed. Fourth, modification of council first contact protocols. In the future, newly discovered species get asked if they want to join the council. Not told, asked, with the right to refuse. That would require changing laws that were 3,000 years old. But Vormath saw the logic. How many other species like humanity were out there, hiding their true capabilities until the council made the mistake of trying to subjugate them? The council will consider it, Vormath said. But I believe we can reach agreement. Fifth and final term. Sarah's expression hardened. The council adds humanity to a special list. Species that will never, under any circumstances, be subject to subjugation attempts. If humanity expands, if we colonize 1,000 worlds, if we become a threat in council eyes, You talk to us. You don't invade us. Because we've shown you what happens when you invade us. Thexun's scales rippled with emotion. Anger, shame, fear all mixed together. You're demanding immunity from council law. I'm demanding you remember this lesson, Sarah said quietly. You assumed we were weak because we were new. You assumed compliance meant surrender. You assumed a species you didn't understand would behave according to your expectations. Those assumptions cost you 40,000 lives and hundreds of ships. How much more are you willing to lose by making the same assumptions again? The chamber was silent. Every delegate knew she was right. They'd made catastrophic errors in judgment. And the truly terrifying thing was that humanity had been relatively gentle. They could have been worse. Much worse. Your terms are acceptable, Vormath said heavily. The Council recognizes the sovereignty of humanity. We will not interfere in your affairs. We will not attempt subjugation. And we will remember this lesson. Sarah nodded. Then we have peace. I'll transmit the formal treaty language within 24 hours. Our ships will cease offensive operations immediately, though we'll maintain defensive posture until the treaty is ratified. She turned to leave, then paused. Ambassador Thexazun asked me a question during our first meeting. He asked why humanity accepted subjugation without protest. I want to answer that now. Thexazun straightened, his scales darkening with memory. We accepted because we needed you to believe you'd won, Sarah said. Predators are most vulnerable when they think their prey is helpless. You're not the first empire to learn this about humanity. When Rome tried to conquer Germania, the tribes submitted until the legions were deep in the forest. Then they slaughtered 3 entire legions. When the Mongols invaded Japan, the samurai fell back until the invaders were committed. Then storms and defenders destroyed the invasion fleet. She smiled slightly. We learned thousands of years ago that sometimes the best defense is to look